What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where today we're going to talk a little bit about Anthony Richardson, right? There's been all the talk about Richardson, Flacco, who should start. We've already done that on this channel. And here we're talking about Anthony Richardson and why he should start. And of course, he should be starting, right? And kind of when you hear Flacco talk on Chris Long's podcast, you hear that Flacco basically saying Richardson needs to be able to get into the games. He needs to be able to learn on the fly. So I thought that was good, and we'll listen to a little bit of that here in just a few minutes. But just for this conversation, that's really what this is about, and what it means. Not only having Richardson being and developing, but like what that means for the future, right? Like you think about during the Peyton Manning era, like guys would want to come here as free agents, and not that we did a whole lot of that. We, Bill Polian drafted a lot of guys that ended up being Hall of Famers. So when you think about it, we weren't all in on free agents during the Peyton era, just like we're not all in on free agents right now. But nonetheless, Peyton Manning came out. He threw 28 interceptions in his rookie year in the college. He came out as, hey, this guy can't really win the big one, right? There were question marks there, and people were probably out on Peyton Manning. And here we are all this time later. He's a Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it. In my opinion, the best to ever do it. But of course, I'm a Colts fan, so of course I would think that. But nonetheless, right, guys were out on Peyton Manning. You have to let Anthony Richardson develop, and if he's able to do that, right, you see over time where teams, when they start to get good, they can just people want to go play there, right? Happened with the Eagles. A lot of free agents started going there. Obviously, kind of leading that pack was Darius Slay from the Lions to the Eagles, and then now you have the Lions, who are the best example of this in the current NFL, where of course with Stafford and Megatron they were able to win some games, but never able to really, I don't even know if they ever won a playoff. Yeah, it doesn't look like they ever won a playoff game. And through all those years of never winning a playoff game, all those years where fans knew going into year they weren't going to win a whole lot of games, and there are so many 2-14, 3-13, 5-11 seasons that you see here as I sit here and I look at the Lions records over the years, and the Lions of all teams, the Lions, who before 2022, maybe one of the worst sports franchises of all time. And they were able to turn it around. They got a coach that spread his message, and got a quarterback that was able to get other guys to believe in the message from Dan Campbell, and they are what they are now, which is the favorites, potentially the favorites in the NFC North. The Vikings look like one of the best teams in the NFL, but nonetheless, the Lions of all teams is able to turn it around. When you see that and you see, hey, all you got to do is get some guys to buy into the message, play some smash mouth football, find different ways to win games, and just never give up, right? Go into every game, execute at a high level, and be disciplined in everything that you do. And I think Shane, that's why I have such high hopes for the future, because Shane and the staff that he's put together, right? We see the offensive side of things, defensive side of things, mostly the same as since before Shane got here, right? Gus Bradley, defensive staff, they kept a lot of their guys, but the offensive staff, we're seeing the offense, even when the offense has an off day, able to get 20 plus points. Like, the offense is doing their thing, and through time they're only going to continue to get better on that side. But defensively is where we see the obvious deficiencies, and I think Shane is going to do the right thing this upcoming offseason. He's going to start to make those changes that need to be made to the defensive side of the ball. So from that aspect, like I think going into the future will be fine, and it's all about Richardson getting his development. Now, I mentioned the clip from Joe Flacco, and unfortunately, like, because of the way things work, and I don't really know what Chris Long and his deal is, but I'm just going to play this from my phone for you guys. And we'll listen to this audio from Joe Flacco, first talking about what it's like for a veteran quarterback to be in a position where he needs to lead from that position, from a backup quarterback position.
Listen, for him, I think it's just about getting reps, just like we talked about earlier. I mean, it's his second year, and he still hasn't really probably been able to get the amount of reps that you would want to, that you can actually learn from. It's those moments that you grow. Is whether it was good or bad, you go back in the meeting room afterwards, and natural conversations happen because of the things that happen throughout the course of a 40 rep practice. And for me, it's like on my end, like hopefully I can relax him a little bit, help him slow down, not let the game speed up too much, because sometimes when you're young you can get so fast with your feet, and you can start moving in the pocket maybe when you don't have to. And obviously he's very athletic and has the ability to do those things very well. So sometimes you can get a little bit out of control with that. So for me, it's just kind of relaxing him a little bit so that he can have his head on right and see everything the right way.
So that right there, like Joe Flacco understands the situation. Joe Flacco himself is sitting here saying, like, Anthony Richardson has to get those reps. That's what we're going to continue to echo. He has to get the reps to get better. That's the only way anybody's going to get better playing football. You have to be able to get the reps, and that's with anything in life. The only way you get better is by doing it. Having him back at practice a little while before coming back is going to be good, right? Being able to see how Flacco goes about preparing as a starter, and then after that starting to split the reps and work in a limited role, and then being a full participant. He's been able to see how Joe Flacco operates, and he can bring that into his game, right? He got to see Gardner Minshew and some of the things that Gardner Minshew could bring to you, but Joe Flacco gives you a plethora of more different kinds of experience. Joe Flacco coming from a system in Baltimore where, I mean, there was a lot of smash mouth football, right? They won games in a lot of different ways, depending on the defense in a lot of those games. But one of the toughest football teams in the NFL year after year after year is the Ravens. And that's something that I think Joe Flacco, for Anthony Richardson's sake and for his development, like something like that, bringing that toughness mentality is exactly something that Anthony Richardson needs as he continues to develop into, the more, manly frame, the more manly mind that is Anthony Richardson, right? Again, only 22 years old. Anybody that's a little older understands that at 22 years old, like, it's just the beginning, right? So he's just gotta be able to last. So he's got to take care of himself. 100% has to be able to take care of himself. Offensive line, though, has been great. There's obviously not going to be any Anthony Rich, or not going to be Jonathan Taylor this upcoming weekend, but getting him back presumably next weekend, I would assume at this point. He was never put on IR. Just feel like at some point, they keep saying he feels pretty good. At some point, he's got to get back on the field. Hopefully, we see that next week. Of course, we'll continue to update that. Going to have more content. We're going to be live during the game tomorrow. So please make sure you're subscribed, have those notifications turned on so you get notified anytime we go live or have any content coming out on this channel. Of course, I appreciate you stopping by for another video. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.